It was the text that did it. The one that popped up on her screen while I was sitting right next to her. I didn't expect to see it. I didn't want to see it. But once I did, I couldn't unsee it. And that's when everything started to unravel. I don't know how long I had been noticing the little things, those quiet, subtle changes that, at the time, didn't seem worth questioning. The late nights, the constant checking of her phone, the odd moments when she would laugh a little too hard at something a text message had said. I had never been the kind of guy to jump to conclusions. I hated drama, I hated fighting, and I thought I could trust her. But as it all built up, it began to feel like a knot tightening in my chest. I couldn't breathe. We had always been close. Maybe not the perfect couple, but close. We had our routines, dinner together every night, movie dates, the usual stuff. It worked. But lately, there was this gap, a distance between us that I couldn't put my finger on. She'd get home late, she'd go out more, and when I asked her about it, she'd brush it off like it was nothing. Just work stuff, she'd say. Or, I was hanging out with a friend. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But today, sitting there on the couch, something felt different. She had just gotten back from the gym, her ponytail wet from sweat, wearing the same gym clothes she always wore. And there she was, leaning against the armrest, tapping away at her phone, barely acknowledging I was there. That's when it happened. A text popped up on her screen. "Is everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She didn't look up from her phone, her fingers flying across the screen. "Yeah, just checking in with a friend," she said, still not making eye contact. "It's nothing." I nodded, but my mind was already spinning. The text had caught my eye. "I miss you." And the name at the top? It wasn't a name I recognized. I knew every contact in her phone, or at least, I thought I did. But this one was new. "What friend?" I asked, my voice cracking just a little. She looked up at me, a flash of irritation crossing her face. "It's just someone from the gym. They needed advice on their workout," she said quickly, before looking back down at her phone. "Really, Jason, relax." But something about the way she said it made me feel like the walls were closing in on me. I knew I had to let it go. I knew I shouldn't let my mind spiral, but there was a voice in the back of my head, telling me to dig deeper. I watched her for a few minutes, the sound of her tapping away on the phone ringing in my ears. And then, as if on cue, she stood up, grabbed her jacket, and turned to me. "I'm going out to meet them," she said. "I'll be back later." I barely had time to process what was happening. "Who's them?" I asked, my stomach dropping. "Just a friend," she said, avoiding my gaze. "It's really nothing. Don't worry about it." But she was already out the door before I could get another word out. And that's when I decided to do something I've never done before. I grabbed her phone. I wasn't proud of it. I wasn't proud of what I was about to do. But the thought of her out there, meeting someone I didn't know, someone I couldn't trust. It was too much. I had to find out who this friend was. I unlocked her phone. It wasn't hard. She never changed the passcode, always thinking it wasn't necessary. What I found shocked me. There were messages from the unknown contact. "Jason, I can't wait to see you tonight. I've been thinking about you all day. I miss the way you used to hold me." That was the first message I read. The words stung. And then there were more. The conversations between them were flirty, intimate, things that no friend would say to her, let alone anyone else. I sat there, my hands trembling. My heart was racing. The realization was hitting me harder than I expected. She wasn't just talking to some gym buddy. She was talking to someone she had an emotional connection with, someone she'd clearly shared something more with. I stared at the screen, not knowing what to do next. I could feel the anger building inside me, but there was also this crushing weight in my chest, an unbearable sense of betrayal. And then the final text came through. It wasn't from her friend. It was from someone else entirely, someone I recognized. Her ex. "I know we said we'd keep things casual, but tonight, I can't stop thinking about you. We need to talk. It's been too long." That was it. That was all I needed to see. I didn't know what was worse, reading those words, or the fact that Ella thought she could get away with this, with me sitting right here in our apartment, so close to everything. It felt like my world had shattered. My mind went into overdrive. Should I confront her? Should I call her right now? No, I couldn't. Not yet. I had to wait. But in that moment, one thing became crystal clear. I wasn't going to let this slide. And maybe, just maybe, I'd have the last laugh. I could feel my pulse hammering in my ears as I sat there, staring at her phone. The words on the screen blurred together. each one sending a shockwave of disbelief through my chest. I kept rereading them, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, but it wasn't helping. The texts from her ex, "I miss you. I can't stop thinking about you." They weren't just random, one-off messages. This was an ongoing conversation. A conversation that I wasn't part of. A conversation that, clearly, had been happening behind my back. I could feel my throat tighten, the bile rising as the reality of what was happening hit me like a punch in the gut. She was seeing him. She was seeing him, the guy from her past who she told me was just a friend. But this wasn't friendship. No one texts their ex like this unless there's something more going on. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone against the wall and demand answers, but I didn't. I couldn't. My head was spinning too fast. I tried to calm myself down, to think through my next move. Should I call her? No, that would be too obvious. I didn't want her to know I knew. I wanted to catch her in the act. I wanted to watch her squirm when she realized I'd figured it out. I wanted her to see that I wasn't as clueless as she thought I was. But first, I needed more evidence. I needed to know exactly what was going on before I did anything stupid. As I scrolled through the messages, I could feel my hands shaking. I kept thinking about everything she'd said to me over the past few weeks. How she'd brushed off my concerns, how she'd acted like everything was fine. I kept hearing her laugh, seeing that smile she wore when she talked to him, and it made me sick to my stomach. She had been lying to me for months, maybe longer. Then I saw something that made my blood run cold. A text, sent just a few hours ago. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I've missed you so much. Let's make up for lost time." I froze. I stared at those words for what felt like an eternity. The weight of them crushed me. It was all right there, spelled out in black and white. This wasn't just a friendly catch-up. This was something far deeper, far more intimate. Something that shouldn't have been happening in the first place. My mind was racing. I needed to do something. I had to confront her. But how? I couldn't just go up to her and say, "I know you've been texting your ex all along." That would be too easy. Too simple. No, I had to be smarter than that. I had to make her admit it. I stared at the phone in my hands for a long time, lost in thought. My stomach was twisted into knots, but the anger inside me was growing stronger. The lies, the deception, the secrets, it was all too much. I had been living in a fog of trust, believing that everything was fine, when in reality, she had been lying to me this entire time. The person I thought I knew, Ella, my wife, wasn't the person she had led me to believe. It was then that I made my decision. I wasn't just going to sit back and wait. I was going to confront her, on my terms. But I needed a plan. A solid one. I needed to know exactly where she was, exactly what she was doing, before I made my move. I waited for what felt like an eternity. The minutes dragged on as I sat in the silence of the apartment, my thoughts spinning in endless circles. I couldn't focus. I couldn't think straight. All I could do was stare at the phone in my hand, that lifeline to the truth. And then, just as I was about to stand up and leave the apartment to find her, the door opened. It was Ella. She stepped inside, her eyes wide with surprise when she saw me sitting there, phone in hand. "Jason, what are you doing?" "I thought you were just going to relax today," she said, her voice light, almost too light. I didn't say anything at first. I just stared at her, my heart pounding in my chest. She looked so innocent, so unaware of what was about to happen. But deep down I knew. I knew everything. And she had no idea that I knew. "What's this?" I asked, holding up the phone, my voice steady but laced with an edge of tension. Her face went pale, and for the briefest moment, I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. But she quickly masked it with a smile, brushing her hair out of her face. "What are you talking about, Jason? Is something wrong with the phone?" I stood up, my anger now boiling over. I couldn't keep calm anymore. "You've been texting him," I said, my voice rising slightly. "I saw the messages. Don't try to lie to me, Ella. I know everything." She froze. Her expression faltered for just a second, but she quickly regained her composure. "Jason, calm down. It's not what you think. It's just a friend. I promise." I could feel my heart sink as I looked at her, watching her try to convince me. But I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. "You're telling me that after all this time, after everything we've been through, it's just a friend? Is that what you're going with, Ella?" I could hear the hurt in my own voice, but I didn't care. The truth was out, and now it was time to face it. Ella took a step back, her eyes darting to the phone in my hand. "Please, Jason," she said softly, her voice breaking. "It's complicated. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I could see the guilt in her eyes now. She knew she was caught. But that didn't change the fact that she had been lying to me. That didn't change the fact that she had been seeing her ex behind my back. I'm done with excuses, Ella, I said, my voice cold. I want the truth. Now. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. For a moment, we just stood there in silence, the weight of the situation hanging between us like a dark cloud. And then she spoke. I never wanted to hurt you, Jason, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I think I've already done that. Her words hung in the air like a weight I couldn't shake off. I stood there, staring at her, trying to process what she had just said. I never wanted to hurt you, Jason, she whispered again, the guilt in her voice heavy. But I wasn't ready for any more of her apologies. I couldn't just let it slide. Not this time. I stared at her, my mind racing. The quiet in the room felt suffocating as I waited for her to say more, to give me something, anything, that would make sense of this madness. I had been a fool, hadn't I? I had ignored the signs, convinced myself that our life together was just fine. I had trusted her, and this was how it all came crashing down. I thought I knew her, but now, I wasn't sure of anything. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I couldn't let her off that easily. Not after everything she had been hiding from me. Complicated, I said, repeating her words, my voice now edged with bitterness. Is that how you're going to explain all of this? You've been seeing him behind my back, talking to him like he's more than just an old friend, and now you want me to believe it's just complicated? Ella bit her lip, her eyes welling up, but she didn't move, didn't say anything for a long moment. The silence stretched out between us like a canyon, and I could almost feel the distance growing wider. I didn't know if I wanted to hear her excuses. I didn't know if I wanted to hear how she would justify betraying me. But I needed answers. I had to know what was going on in her head. Tell me the truth, Ella, I demanded, my voice firm now, no longer giving her the luxury of escaping with vague answers. How long has this been going on? She swallowed hard, glancing at the floor. It started a few months ago, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't want you to find out. I didn't want to hurt you, but things just got complicated. Complicated, I repeated, my disbelief growing. How do you go from friends to this? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you just end things before it went this far? She hesitated, her eyes avoiding mine. It wasn't like that at first, she explained slowly, her voice shaking. It was just talking, at first. I told myself it was nothing. But then, one night, he came to me, and I don't know how it happened. It was like everything just clicked. He understood me in ways you didn't, Jason. I never meant for it to go this far. Her words felt like a slap, each one stinging deeper than the last. So you just let it go this far? I asked, incredulity and hurt mixing in my voice. You let this happen, knowing how it would destroy everything we had. Ella stepped forward, her hands trembling. I never wanted to destroy us, Jason. I never wanted this. But I couldn't help how I felt. I thought I could keep it from you. I thought I could keep it under control, but I couldn't. I clenched my jaw, feeling like I might lose control at any moment. And you really think that's enough? That's why you kept it from me? Because you didn't want to hurt me? You knew exactly what you were doing, Ella. You knew. Her face crumpled, and she finally let the tears fall. I'm so sorry, Jason. I never wanted to hurt you. But I was lonely. You stopped paying attention to me, and he just listened. I needed someone who cared, and I thought that maybe I could have both. But I was wrong. Lonely. That was the word she used. The one that cut deepest. I had heard it too many times over the past few months, but I had never thought it was anything to be concerned about. She was lonely, and I had been oblivious. I was too wrapped up in my own routine, my own distractions, to even notice, to care. And now, it felt like the consequences of my neglect were staring me in the face. I felt a pang in my chest, a mixture of anger and heartbreak, and I took a step back, trying to process everything. So what now, Ella? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though I could feel the rage building inside me. What do you expect me to do with this? Do you think I can just forgive you? Pretend nothing happened? She shook her head desperately. No, Jason, I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to understand. I've been so ashamed of what I did. I never meant for it to happen, but I didn't know how to fix it. I wanted to scream, to yell at her for everything she had put me through, but I didn't. I didn't know what to say. Words didn't seem enough to convey the anger and the pain that were swirling in my chest. As she stood there, pleading for my forgiveness, I realized I had no idea what to do next. I didn't know if I could even look at her the same way again. The trust we had spent years building, the connection that had once seemed so solid, felt like it was crumbling to dust in front of me. And all I could think about was how I had allowed this to happen, how I had let her slip away and not even noticed. "You need to leave," I said, my voice flat. "I can't do this right now." Her eyes widened in shock, and she opened her mouth to protest, but I cut her off. "No, Ella. I need space. I need time to think. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with all of this." For a long moment, she didn't move, just standing there, staring at me like I had slapped her. She was expecting me to say something else, to take her in my arms and tell her everything was going to be okay. But I couldn't. I couldn't pretend everything was fine when the foundation of everything I had known was shattered. Finally, she turned, her shoulders hunched in defeat, and walked toward the door. Before she left, she turned back to me one last time, her face pale and tear-streaked. "I'm so sorry, Jason. I never meant to hurt you." I didn't respond. I just stood there, watching her leave, the door clicking shut behind her. And then the silence hit me like a tidal wave. I was alone. Alone with the truth, alone with the anger, and alone with the realization that nothing would ever be the same again. The silence was deafening after she left. I sat there in the empty apartment, the weight of everything that had just happened slowly sinking in. My mind felt like it was moving in slow motion, processing the events, the words, the betrayal that had been hiding in plain sight. I didn't even know what to do with myself anymore. I couldn't think straight. My chest felt tight, and my mind kept replaying the moment when she admitted everything. How she had been seeing her ex behind my back, how she had been lying to me all this time. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't even the lies. It was the feeling that I had somehow missed the signs. I had been blind to what was happening right in front of me. The late nights, the evasive answers, the way she acted around him. How had I been so stupid? How had I let her slip away like that? The thought kept gnawing at me, eating away at my insides. I had trusted her. I had believed her. And she had destroyed that trust with the ease of someone who had no intention of ever keeping it. I couldn't stay there, in that apartment, drowning in my thoughts. I needed to get out, clear my head, do something. I stood up abruptly, grabbing my jacket and heading for the door. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. I just needed to move. The cold air hit me as soon as I stepped outside, but it did nothing to calm the storm brewing inside me. I walked aimlessly, my footsteps heavy against the pavement. The city was alive around me, people walking past, their lives continuing as if nothing had happened. But my world had just been flipped upside down, and I felt like I was walking in a fog. Everything felt distant, as though I was floating above it all, watching from the outside. I didn't want to go back to the apartment, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was avoiding the inevitable. I had to confront this. I had to make a decision. I couldn't let her think she could just walk back into my life like nothing happened. But I also knew I couldn't just cut her off. Not yet. I had to understand why she did this. Why she let things get so out of hand. As I walked, my phone buzzed in my pocket. For a moment, I thought it might be her, but when I pulled it out, I saw a message from an unknown number. I stared at the screen for a moment before opening it. The message was brief, but the words sent a shiver down my spine. "It's not over yet. Meet me. We need to talk." I didn't recognize the number, but something about it felt familiar. My pulse quickened. I stared at the message, wondering if it was her ex or someone else entirely. Who else would want to talk to me right now? And why now of all times? I didn't respond immediately. I couldn't. I wasn't ready to open that door just yet. But the message lingered in my mind as I kept walking, my thoughts spiraling further and further. I tried to push it out of my head, tried to focus on something else, but the words stayed with me. It wasn't long before I found myself in front of a cafe. I didn't remember walking here, but I had arrived, and something about the warm light spilling out from inside felt comforting. I walked in, found a seat by the window, and ordered a coffee. I needed to think. I needed to clear my head before I made any rash decisions. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Ella, the woman I thought I knew. Apologizing, telling me she was sorry, telling me that she had made a mistake. But was it a mistake? Was it really? She had been seeing him, talking to him, betraying me in ways I couldn't even begin to understand. And now she wanted me to just forgive her and move on? I didn't know what to think anymore. I didn't know what to believe. My phone buzzed again, and this time I didn't hesitate. I opened the message. I know what you're thinking. You don't want to hear from me, but you need to. Meet me, and I'll explain everything. The message was from the same unknown number. My heart raced. It wasn't just some random person. It was someone who knew exactly what was going on. Someone who knew the truth. But what truth? And why hadn't they just come forward sooner? I glanced around the cafe, my mind racing. I could feel the anxiety building up inside me, but I couldn't ignore this. I had to know who this person was. I had to find out what they knew. I responded. Where? A few seconds later, my phone buzzed with the address of a bar not too far from where I was sitting. The message was short, direct. Nothing about it felt casual. This was serious. I hesitated for a moment, the weight of my decision pressing down on me. But I knew I couldn't back out now. I needed answers, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get them. I stood up, paid for my coffee, and headed for the door. The streets seemed even colder now, the wind biting at my skin, but I didn't care. My mind was on the meeting ahead, my thoughts running wild as I walked. The bar was tucked away on a side street, quiet, with an old-school charm. I walked inside, scanning the room for anyone who might be waiting for me. The place was nearly empty, the dim lighting casting long shadows across the floor. I felt a sense of unease settle over me as I approached the bar. Looking for someone? The bartender asked, his voice low, almost too casual. I nodded. I'm meeting someone. They said they were here. He gave me a knowing look, then pointed to the back. Last booth in the corner. But you'll know them when you see them. I walked toward the back, my steps hesitant now. I didn't know what to expect. Who was this person? What did they know? And why had they waited so long to contact me? I reached the booth, and when I saw the figure sitting there, I froze. It was him. Her ex. I took a deep breath, walking toward the booth with a sense of dread settling deep in my stomach. This wasn't just about Ella anymore. This was about something far bigger. Something I hadn't even begun to understand. He looked up as I approached, his eyes narrowing with a mix of curiosity and caution. But there was something else there, something I couldn't quite place. You finally showed up, he said, his voice flat. I wasn't sure you would. I sat down across from him, my mind reeling. I had no idea what to say. What could I say? He leaned forward, his eyes locking onto mine. I know you're pissed. You have every right to be. But what I'm about to tell you, what you don't know, will change everything. His words hung in the air, heavy with a promise of something I wasn't sure I was ready to hear. I sat there, staring at him, trying to process what he had just said. This was the guy? The one who had been texting Ella, the one she claimed was just a friend. And now he was sitting across from me in some dimly lit bar, looking as calm as ever, as if he had no idea what this was doing to me. I didn't know what to expect. Did he know something about Ella that I didn't? Was he about to tell me things I was too blind to see? My stomach twisted in knots, and my mind raced. I was so far out of my depth, and yet, I couldn't back away now. Not when I was so close to the truth. He leaned back in his chair, eyes still on me, a faint smirk playing at the corner of his mouth. You're probably wondering why I'm the one sitting here with you, right? Why not just let Ella handle it herself? I didn't respond immediately. I couldn't. My chest felt like it was tightening with every passing second. I wanted to yell at him, to demand that he tell me what he knew, but I knew it wouldn't get me anywhere. I had to be patient. I had to let him speak. He chuckled under his breath, almost as if he were enjoying my discomfort. Look, I'm not here to make things worse, okay? I'm here to explain something that Ella hasn't told you. Something she hasn't wanted you to know. He paused, letting the words hang between us before adding. And believe me, it's a lot bigger than you think. I shifted in my seat, trying to keep my voice steady. What the hell is going on? What's so big that she didn't tell me? She's been lying to me for months, and now you show up, telling me there's more? He raised his hands, as if trying to calm me down. You're not hearing me, man. Ella wasn't lying to you just because she wanted to hurt you. She's been hiding something from both of us. You think she's just been seeing me behind your back? No, it's much worse than that. My heart skipped a beat. The words hit me like a freight train, and I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. What do you mean? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. What's worse than that? He leaned in, his expression serious for the first time since we started talking. Ella didn't tell you about the other part of our past. The part that goes way back before she ever met you. He paused for a moment, as if weighing his words carefully. You see, Jason, we didn't just have a fling. We didn't just meet up a couple of times and call it quits. Our relationship was different. More than that. And that's something Ella's been hiding from you. From both of us. I could feel the blood draining from my face. This wasn't just about an affair. This wasn't just some fleeting connection between two people who hadn't been able to let go of the past. It was something deeper, something that had been festering under the surface for longer than I could even imagine. What the hell are you talking about? I said, my voice shaking now. What kind of more are you talking about? He sighed and ran a hand through his hair, glancing around the bar before focusing back on me. Ella and I, we've been involved in something much bigger than just us. A few years ago, before she even met you, there was something that happened. Something she never told you about. And that's why this whole thing with me started up again. He leaned forward again, locking eyes with me. She's been caught up in something she can't get out of. And she never planned for you to get involved. I was frozen in place, unable to make sense of anything he was saying. I had thought I knew everything. I had believed I understood my wife, the woman I'd been with for years. But now, I was hearing this stranger, this man who I'd thought was nothing more than a shadow from her past, telling me that there was a side to Ella I had never even glimpsed. And worse, he was telling me that I was a part of something much bigger than I could comprehend. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. What was there to say? What could I say? He seemed to read the confusion on my face and shrugged. Look, I know you're not going to believe me right away, but I'm telling you, you've got to wake up to what's been going on. Ella's been trying to protect you from this, but the longer you stay in the dark, the more dangerous it's going to get. This isn't just about a betrayal anymore. It's about something much darker. I could feel my head spinning as I tried to digest what he was saying. My world, everything I thought I knew, was falling apart piece by piece. My wife wasn't just someone I could trust. She wasn't just the woman I had shared my life with. There was a side to her, one that I had never even suspected, that was now threatening everything I had built. I couldn't breathe. I had so many questions, so many thoughts racing through my head, but none of them made sense. What was he talking about? What was Ella involved in? And why had she kept it from me for so long? I had to know more, but I couldn't push him. Not yet. I leaned forward, my voice hoarse. Tell me what's going on. Tell me everything. He exhaled slowly, as though the weight of what he was about to say was almost too much for him. Ella's not just hiding a past relationship. She's been part of something that's way more dangerous than you think. She's in deeper than you'll ever understand. And now, because of her involvement, everything is about to spiral out of control. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process what he was saying, trying to find some sense in his words. But nothing about this made sense. Nothing at all. I don't know if I can help you, he continued, his voice softer now. But I'm telling you this because you need to understand something. Ella isn't who you think she is. And if you want to get to the bottom of this, you need to make a choice. A hard choice. I felt the room close in around me, the air growing thick with uncertainty. What choice? What was he talking about? I can't just walk away from this, I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. Tell me what I need to do. Please. He studied me for a moment, and then, with a sigh, he stood up, tossing a few bills on the table. You're already in too deep. Now, it's just a matter of whether you want to know the whole truth. But be warned, Jason. Once you open that door, you can't close it again. Before I could say another word, he turned and walked out of the bar, leaving me sitting there, alone with my thoughts. Alone with the realization that nothing would ever be the same again. The words he left me with echoed in my mind, each one bouncing around like a bullet in my head. You're already in too deep, he had said. Once you open that door, you can't close it again. I wasn't sure if he meant that as a warning or a promise, but the weight of it hung heavy on my shoulders as I sat there, the dim light of the bar flickering in the background, blurring my thoughts. I didn't know what he was trying to get at. What choice was he talking about? Ella? What had she been involved in that was so dangerous, so dark, that he couldn't just come out and say it? I felt a pressure building in my chest, a sense of urgency that I couldn't shake. There was so much I didn't know, so much she had kept hidden from me. The bartender came over, refilling my glass without asking. He didn't say anything, just slid it across the table and walked away, leaving me to stew in my own confusion. I hadn't even realized I was holding the glass until I looked down at it, the condensation dripping slowly down the sides. My hand was shaking, but not from fear. No, This was anger. Anger at myself, at Ella, at everything that had been ripped out from under me without warning. I sat there for what felt like hours, just staring at the half-empty glass in front of me, the words from her ex still swirling around in my head. I had to find out more. I had to know what was going on. This wasn't just about trust anymore. This was about survival. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up, the sudden movement making me dizzy for a moment. I grabbed my jacket, paid for the drink, and walked out of the bar into the cold night air. It felt like a shock to the system, the sharp chill of reality setting in. I wasn't in the dark anymore, but the light I had found was harsh and blinding. I had no idea what to do next. Part of me wanted to run, to just walk away from all of it and pretend like I hadn't heard any of it. But I couldn't. I wasn't that person anymore. I had to know what was going on. I had to confront Ella. I didn't go back to the apartment immediately. I needed time. Time to think. To figure out how I was going to handle this. How I was going to look her in the eyes after everything that had happened. My steps were mechanical as I walked down the streets, the city around me buzzing with life, while I felt like I was in some twisted version of it. I passed strangers, couples laughing, groups of friends chatting, and all I could think about was Ella. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something far bigger than I could comprehend. As I walked, I thought back to everything she had said. The excuses, the casual dismissals. It's just a friend, she had said. But it wasn't just a friend, was it? This whole thing was deeper, darker. I had trusted her completely, believed every word that came out of her mouth. But now I didn't know what to believe anymore. She had kept so much from me, lied to my face without a second thought. And worse, she had let me walk right into this mess without warning. The image of her face, tear-streaked and full of guilt, came to mind. She had looked like she was sorry. But was she? Or was she just sorry she got caught? I reached the apartment building and paused for a moment, looking up at the windows. I didn't want to go in. Not yet. Not until I had some answers. I stood there for a long time, lost in my thoughts, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, and my stomach dropped when I saw the message. "Where are you? We need to talk." It was from Ella. I stood there for a moment, my mind spinning. Part of me wanted to ignore it, walk away, and leave everything behind. But I knew I couldn't do that. I had to hear her out. I had to find out where all of this was headed, whether I wanted to or not. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I walked to the entrance of the building and stood outside for another moment, weighing my options. There were too many unknowns, too many questions without answers. But if I didn't face her now, I'd never know the truth. And that was something I couldn't live with. I hit reply. "I'm coming." The message sent, and I made my way upstairs, each step heavier than the last. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I approached our apartment door. This was it. This was the moment I'd been dreading. The truth was behind that door, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. But I didn't have a choice anymore. I knocked once, then twice. A few moments passed, and then I heard her footsteps approach. The door creaked open slowly, and there she was, Ella. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, her eyes red, her face pale, but she still managed a small, weak smile when she saw me. "Jason," she whispered, almost like a plea. "We need to talk." I didn't say anything at first. I couldn't. I was too angry, too confused. I just stared at her, taking in the woman I had thought I knew. The woman who had torn my world apart without even a second thought. "I know you're upset," she began, her voice trembling. "But you have to understand, everything I did because I thought it was the only way to keep you safe. To protect you." I frowned, stepping past her into the apartment. "Safe from what?" I asked, my voice rough, my patience wearing thin. "What the hell is going on, Ella?" She closed the door softly behind her, and I could see the hesitation in her eyes. She didn't want to tell me, not fully. She was scared, and it made sense. But I wasn't going to let her off the hook. Not this time. "I wasn't just seeing him because I missed him," she said, sitting down on the couch and gesturing for me to sit. "Jason, there's so much I didn't tell you. About what happened before we met. About the people I got involved with. People who are dangerous. And they're not going to stop just because I want them to. They'll do whatever it takes to get what they want. And I didn't want you in the middle of it. I thought I could protect you from it. But now it's too late." I stood frozen, staring at her, trying to understand what she was saying. "What people? What are you talking about?" Her eyes filled with tears as she looked up at me, her face crumpling in guilt. I never wanted you to get caught up in this, Jason. But now you're too close. They know about you. They know everything. The air between us grew thick with tension. Ella sat there, her face twisted in a mixture of guilt and fear, as though she was holding back something far worse than I could imagine. My mind raced, trying to piece together the broken puzzle she had just thrown at me. They know about you? I asked, my voice trembling despite my best effort to stay composed. What the hell does that even mean? Ella wiped her eyes, her hands shaking slightly. Jason, I didn't want to pull you into this. I really didn't. But now that you know, now that you're here, you need to understand. There's so much I never told you, things I thought I could leave behind. But the truth is, I can't protect you anymore. They know about us. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, each word she said hitting me like a wave crashing over me. Who are these people, Ella? What is this about? You've been lying to me for months, and now you're telling me that I'm in danger because of you? What have you gotten yourself into? She looked away for a moment, staring at her hands like she was trying to find the words. It started a few years ago, long before I met you. I got involved with some people. People who weren't exactly legitimate. They promised me they could help me, but I didn't know what I was really getting into. They used me. And when I tried to pull away, when I tried to leave it behind, they wouldn't let me. My breath hitched. What kind of people, Ella? Who are they? Her eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw the real fear in her gaze. The fear that had been buried under the calm facade she had put up over the past few days. They're dangerous, Jason. They're involved in things that go far beyond just money. I don't know who they really are, but I know enough to understand that they'll stop at nothing to get what they want. And they want me back. They want control, and they'll use anyone to get it, including you. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Everything I thought I knew about her, about us, was crumbling in front of me. How could she keep something like this from me? How could she put me in a position where I was unknowingly walking into a world of danger, a world I had no business being a part of? Why didn't you tell me all of this before? I demanded, my voice cracking. You could have trusted me. I would have helped you, Ella. I would have been there for you. But now, I'm stuck in the middle of whatever mess you've created. And I don't even know if I can trust you anymore. Her face softened, and she reached out as though to touch my arm. But I pulled away, not wanting to be touched by the same hands that had caused all of this. I was trying to protect you, Jason, she said quietly, her voice breaking. I thought if I kept it from you, you'd be safe. I didn't want to pull you into this world. I didn't want you to become a target because of me. I stared at her, my emotions a tangled mess. A target? I repeated, barely able to process the words coming out of my mouth. What the hell are you talking about? What do they want with me? What do they want with us? She took a deep breath, her eyes filling with tears again as she looked down at her hands. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could make everything go away. But I've been lying to you, Jason. I've been lying to myself. I've tried to pretend that none of this was happening, but it's real. And now they know everything about you. They know who you are. They've been watching us for months. I thought I could protect you, but I was wrong. I was frozen. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, each one darker than the last. What was she saying? That this wasn't just about her being with her ex? That it wasn't just some betrayal of trust? This was bigger than I could have imagined. A whole underground world of danger, a world I had never signed up for, was slowly closing in on me. I stood up suddenly, pacing back and forth in the living room, trying to make sense of what was happening. Why now, Ella? Why tell me all of this now? What's changed? I didn't know how to tell you before, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I saw them. The people who've been watching us. They're getting closer, Jason, and they know that I'm trying to get out. They're making sure I don't escape this. They've already made it clear that they'll do whatever it takes to keep me involved. And if that means using you against me, they will. I felt the blood drain from my face. What do you mean? What are they going to do to me? Her voice broke as she answered, I don't know, Jason, but I don't want you to be a part of it. I didn't want you to be a part of any of this. But now they know about you, and they're not going to stop until they get what they want. I felt a cold wave of fear wash over me, but it was mixed with something else, something darker. Anger. Betrayal. She had dragged me into this without me even knowing. I was in over my head, and I didn't know if I could get out of it now. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. So what do we do now? How do we fix this? How do we get out of this mess? Ella looked up at me, her eyes filled with desperation. I don't know. I wish I had an answer. But all I know is that we can't stay here. We can't just pretend that everything is okay anymore. I'm scared, Jason. I'm scared that if we don't leave, if we don't get out, they'll come after both of us. For a moment, everything seemed still. The weight of her words settled over me like a suffocating blanket. I had no idea what we were up against, but I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't something I could fix alone. This wasn't something I could just walk away from. I had no choice but to trust her now. But trusting her meant stepping into a world I wasn't ready for. A world that could change everything in ways I didn't understand. Then we leave, I said finally, my voice steady. We leave and we figure this out together. But you have to tell me everything. I can't help you if you keep holding back. I need to know everything, Ella. All of it. She nodded, her face pale but determined. I'll tell you everything. I promise. But as she spoke those words, something deep inside me told me that there were still things she wasn't telling me. Things that might change everything once again. The silence that had filled the room after Ella's words felt like it would suffocate me, but I forced myself to stay calm, to listen. She had promised to tell me everything, and I needed to trust her. For the first time in what felt like weeks, I decided to believe in her again. I had to. If I didn't, I was walking away from the one person who had been my world, even if it was broken, even if everything had fallen apart. I'll tell you everything, Ella repeated, her voice shaky, but there was a spark of determination behind her words. She looked at me, her eyes filled with both regret and hope, and it made me believe that maybe, just maybe, we could fix this. She started with the truth. The whole truth. From the moment she had first gotten involved with those people to the reasons why she had kept it from me. She explained how she had tried to escape, how she had convinced herself that she could protect me by keeping me in the dark. But she was wrong. She had underestimated how deeply the people she was tangled up with could reach into her life and mine. As she spoke, I realized that her guilt wasn't just about her betrayal, but about the way she had shielded me from something she never wanted me to face. She had kept me out of it because she loved me, because she didn't want me to become part of this dangerous world. But it was too late for that. We were both already in it, and there was no turning back. When she finished, I was left in stunned silence. The weight of everything we had just talked about hung heavy, but for the first time in weeks, it didn't feel like a death sentence. It didn't feel like we were doomed. We were facing something terrifying, yes, but there was still a chance. A chance to fight back. A chance to rebuild. I don't know what to say, I whispered, still processing everything. But I know one thing. I can't just walk away from you, Ella. We've been through too much together. Her eyes softened, and a tear slipped down her cheek. She reached out and took my hand, squeezing it gently. I don't want you to walk away, Jason. I never wanted you to be a part of this, but now that you know, I don't want to face it alone. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the strength of our connection. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. This wasn't going to be some fairy tale where everything was magically fixed with one conversation. But I also knew something important. We were in this together. We had a chance to fight for our future. And I wasn't going to throw that away. We'll figure it out, I said, my voice more certain than it had been in days. Together. Ella's face broke into the faintest of smiles. It wasn't the carefree, happy smile I had once seen every day, but it was something. A flicker of hope in the darkness. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild everything. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy. We had a lot of hard work to do, and we had to face things I couldn't even begin to imagine. But for the first time, I felt like we had a chance. We had each other, and that was all that mattered. That night, we stayed up late talking, planning, trying to figure out how we could fight back against the forces that had pulled us into this mess. It wasn't going to be simple, but with every word we shared, every plan we made, it became clear to me that there was no going back. This was our fight now, and I wasn't about to let her face it alone. In the days that followed, we took action. We contacted people who could help, started working on a way to get out of the grip these dangerous people had on her. We did everything we could to protect ourselves, and slowly, we started to regain control. It wasn't perfect. There were moments of doubt, moments when the weight of it all almost crushed us. But through it all, we held on to each other. The best part? We didn't give up. Together, we rebuilt our trust. We learned how to communicate again, how to open up about our fears and our mistakes. And slowly, Very slowly, we began to heal. Ella and I moved to a new place. It was nothing extravagant, just a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood, far from the people who had caused us so much pain. But it was ours. It was our new beginning. One evening, as we sat on the balcony of our new apartment, watching the sunset together, Ella turned to me and smiled. "You know," she said softly, "I never thought we'd get here." I smiled back, taking her hand. I never did either. But we did, and that's what matters. We had made it through the storm, and while the future was still uncertain, I knew one thing for sure. No matter what came next, we were going to face it together. And that was enough.